In the den of iniquity, vicinity no pretty, calamity if it hit we any moment, what a pity. Tomorrow never certain, what draws behind the curtain, the face of evil smirking with the shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble that either pop or topple, many will fall and stumble, let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso, cannon could reach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. Hey, I say, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising, and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Getting Ish Done. Can you hear me, Dr. Thunder?
I can. What's happening?
I'm good. What's up with you this Wednesday evening? Also, I think it is.
Yeah, it is. It is Wednesday evening in the real world. Not
in the real world, and over here in Africa, it is Thursday morning. So,
yeah. So the world hasn't ended yet. So I'm at least safe for.
You got another. You're good for another 8 hours or 7 hours. 7 hours. Yes. You're good for 7 hours at least. So yeah, we're good. This is news from the future. Go ahead and click that like button. Click the share button. Subscribe if you have not already. And yeah, participate in the poll, which is about procrastination. And this is the second part on a series that we're doing here. And if there's anything worth mentioning about the first part is a couple of things. Number one is that one of the reasons people procrastinate is because they're not good estimators of time. This is one that comes up over and over again. So people are misjudging exactly how long something takes, right? So they end up missing deadlines. So this is more of a, you miss deadlines because you don't estimate the amount of time correctly. So it's not like you actually procrastinated, is you did not estimate how long it'll take, and you thought that it'll take a day, and blah, blah, blah. And procrastination does play into that in a certain sense where you waited, right? Shout out to Dr. Thunder, like your students, you say you can't give certain types of excuses because it shows that you waited to the last minute, right? And certain types of things happen when you wait to the last minute. So if you're not estimating time correctly and then you wait to the last minute, you're sure to fail, right? And estimating time,
procrastination activates Murphy's Law.
Procrastination activates Murphy's Law, exactly. Your dog will eat your whatever, and the ink cartridge will run out, and all kinds of crazy things might happen. And yes, the tires might blow out on the freeway or whatever it may be, but you did not, you didn't start on time, right? And the perfectionist thing too, right? It was something else that came up last time, which is people using perfectionism as an excuse, and we demolished that one. It's not a valid excuse at all. Okay, like perfectionism is not a real reason to not stop something. But then we address the real, by not stop, I mean not finish a product, right? Not know when to, wrap it up and send it in. And then we address the only real issue with that, which is when is good enough, right? When is it good enough to stop it, wrap it up, and ship it, right? And sometimes it's a legitimate issue in the sense that you can continue to tweak and tweak and tweak. You mentioned, are you a Mozart or are you a Beethoven? As in, do you write like Beethoven where, it's all tweak, you write something and then you keep on tweaking forever? Or does it just all come out and then you're done, right? And Dr. Thunder, I assume you're more of like a Beethoven type, if you were just to ask, if I were to guess, right?
Yeah, that's definitely true. That's definitely
okay. Well, there you go. So you understand that you could tweak something forever, right? Like you do have to make the decision from time to time of like, okay, this is done, right? Wrap it up, ship it, send it out. We're done. So perfectionism is not a legitimate excuse at all for not completing a task, right? And then there are other things such as being overwhelmed. And now I believe we're going to number 5, which has to do with another thing to mention is all this is something that we addressed before when we covered a book about getting things done. And it was about actively engaging with something, meaning you capture and then organize. Capturing meaning rather than just having some idea in your heart, okay, or in your head, which tends to overwhelm you, by the way. You take it out of that and you put it in a calendar, you put it in a piece of paper, you write it down, you put sticky notes down, and then you start to organize it. You start to say, well, what are the sub objectives to getting to this goal and all those types of things, right? Okay, well, you may say, okay, well, I need to buy my mom a gift. I need to buy my mom a gift. That's just in your heart, right? It's in your head and it's overwhelming you. But when you write it down and you're like, okay, this gift from this store, and then you realize, oh, that store is closed, or hey, I'm going to need to order it using this particular card, delivered on this particular day, blah, blah, blah. You start to see what it is, and it's easy. It becomes manageable because, as they said in that, that review, that your brain is meant for generating ideas and not for storing things, which makes sense. Like, why are you just going to keep things stored in your head? So paper is made for. But we are going to continue. Shout out to I believe we're already getting super chats, Dr. Thunder. That is good. That's a super sticker for you. I don't have you got a sound effect, or are you on your
Oh, sure.
I had procrastination to participate here tonight. We'll say 100%. Now, Red Pill financing us early today. We got Patrick Bet David in the building. This is Valuetainment. Great channel. And he is the one giving the presentation here on different things associated with procrastination. He is ending the perfectionist thing here at the end, and then we'll move into number 5, I believe. Let's see. Muted.
You really don't know where to start. Imagine you are told, here's your task. You got to get this done. And you said yes, but you're not really clear on what's expected of you. So when you come back to your desk or you're sitting by yourself, like, what is my step number 1 or number 2? What do I do next? I have no idea what to do next. So because you weren't given clear expectation, because you didn't ask the right question, you're sitting there saying, I don't really know what my first step is. What do I do next? So because you don't know what to do next, you procrastinate. Point number 6 is...
Yeah, that point number 5. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, you go first. I won't forget mine.
I'll say like the point numbers, that point that he just really went over very, very quickly, right? Point number 5 is for me anyways, the biggest part, the most important thing, like the most actionable aspect. I mentioned it right before we started, right? Which is capturing the task, right? Which is you actually, as opposed to, well, I just have this goal to achieve. I have to finish this particular project. I have to write this book, whatever it is. Okay, I have to write this chapter, I have this paragraph. I have to forget what the task is, okay? But the point is, until you put it down on paper step by step, it is really difficult to start it because you don't know what the first thing to do. And then it just becomes a little overwhelming again. And then you put it away as though, you're like waiting for the where to start fairy to come and tell you where to start. So a huge part of not procrastinating is whenever you have something that you need to do, first of all, take it out of your head, put it down on a piece of paper, and then look at it and say, okay, what will be the first step, right? Step 1, steps 2, step 3, And I use this silly example of when I'm running out of energy talking about step 1, open up Outlook, step 2, open up the email, all that kind of crap. But anyways, Dr. Thunder, what were you going to say?
Well, so first, I want to acknowledge another super chatter, Don McKee 90 with the $5 super chat. Number 1 always gets me. Thank you very much. And okay, so with number 5, logistics matter. it's interesting because working with a bunch of creative folks, logistics tends to be something that gets overlooked, or you're in the middle of something and like you've already made all the decisions, you're already down the road, and then somebody says, well, can we just do this other way now? And of course the answer is no. That ship has sailed. We can talk about what we will do next year, right? But we cannot talk about what we're going to do now, because the step that we have already started the process, right? We're down the road. We're halfway down the road. Creatives always want to, well, let's change it this way, and let's do this, and let's do that. And you end up with a jumbled ball of mess by doing that, right? And you set yourself up for failure, as it were, right? Because you never even gave it a good you never gave it a good try, as it were. You never ran through the entire process. You never did it right in the first place, and you're already changing it. You're already making adjustments to it. And now there's a difference between making small tweaks as you go, building it as you fly, as it were, and changing the destination. You're in the sky. You've decided X, Y, Z. Okay, you have some turbulence. You move around the turbulence. That's those small adjustments. But then to be like, well, you know what? I know we have all this stuff invested in this, but guess what? Let's just go to this other location now. That's what people want to do, and it's really frustrating. And it's hilarious that people don't recognize that what kind of massive issue that's going to create. And the more people that you have involved with stuff, the less of that kind of stuff you can do, because you simultaneously disrespect everybody involved. You wasted 100%. Everybody's time. So, and here's another reason why number 5 right now kind of hits home. So I'm okay, and the other people that were involved are okay. But I totaled my car. Was driving down a one-way, and another car came out from the left side of the street. I was all the way in the left lane, and decided they were going to turn right on a one-way right into me, right? And so I'm driving regular speed, which was at least 35 miles an hour, plus whatever speed they were going. Totally smashed, totally totaled the car. Their car looks way worse than mine. But in the sort of, nobody was seriously hurt. There was 2 college-aged kids, in the car. The guy got out, and he was all apologetic and everything. He's shaking. Of course, he's in shock. The girl is totally in shock. Her face is red. No blood, no cuts, no broken bones, none of that. I mean, I had some bruising from the seatbelt and some stuff like that. But in all of this sort of melee and everything, now I discovered that both of us have, of course, I had full coverage insurance. This other person had full coverage insurance, and we're in a fault state. So his insurance is on the hook for paying, right? So, but what ended up happening was, in all of the melee, I forgot to ask the guy's name and for his insurance. Right? So that's step 1. Right? That's step 1. So the next day, when I was like, okay, I got to get a car rental, I got to do this, I got to start looking for cars, because there apparently is some sort of shortage of used cars right now, and I got to look, I got to do all this stuff, but I can't even do step 1 because I can't contact them. I'm calling the police department. I'm calling, I'm doing all kinds of stuff trying to figure out this information. So it turns out that I actually didn't have to wait for that information, and I could actually go through my own insurance company, and they'll hassle the other company for me. I didn't realize that was a possibility. But because I didn't know the first step, I couldn't do anything. And I'm totally stuck and I'm paralyzed. I can't do anything. Right. I went to the doctor, got checked out. I did a couple things like that, but I couldn't go into work. This is a bunch of goofy stuff. So anyhow, step number 5, not knowing what the first step is of critical importance. And then the other part of that is, like I said, logistics matter. And you can't have people throwing monkey wrenches into the logistical sort of puzzle. You can't have them throwing monkey wrenches in that, because you're not going to go anywhere. You're done. And somebody has to be the person that tells these folks with all of these great ideas. They could have been telling you the great ideas months ago, by the way. And you probably would have implemented them. That's the thing that always gets me. Why are you telling me this now? I can't do anything now. And if I say, and here's the thing, it's always like this. If I was to say, yes, okay, let's make these changes right now, and it flops flat on its face, they're never going to take responsibility. It'll always be my fault anyway. So I'd rather say no, which I don't like to say no. I don't want to say no. I want to say yes. I want to say that is a great idea. Let's try that. That's what I want to say. But I can't say that.
You can't say that, indeed. The question here, you're talking about step 1. And the question here is about how to know what step 1 is in a big chunk of a project. Like, you just have something and you're asking, well, what is step 1? Now I'm gonna take a crack at it. This is one of those things that is comes very natural to me, so it's hard to kind of explain, right? But let me say something. Almost like in your story, what you just said, the steps have to do with what you need. So what do you need, right? So you're asking the question, how, right? How do I break down the task? So there is a task. I don't know. It's now these tasks, and I'm sure what you're asking, right, is it's probably like a complex mental and involves some physical aspects as well. So it's not as easy as mowing the lawn, let's say. But if it was mowing the lawn, question is, what do you need to mow the lawn, right? So, and in other words, what items, what materials, what tools, okay? So it could be, if it's outside mowing the lawn and it's, let's say, you're working on your computer, there'll be certain files that you need. Certain, I need Excel, and I need this particular set of files, and XYZ. Or I need my lawnmower, I need gasoline or whatever fuel you use in your lawnmower, and X, Y, and Z, right? So the idea first is, okay, what exactly do I need in order to solve this problem? So it could be, let's say it's an engineering problem, right? And if you remember word problems in math, right? There's certain things that are given in the problem that are required of you. And then the word problem task is for you to go in there, pick those things out, right? And then arrange them in some kind of an equation that'll get you the thing that you don't know, right? So if it's an engineering problem, such as, well, how exactly do I go from point A to point B with regards to this particular program? Or how do I build this particular thing? Somebody has an idea of something that they want to build. How do I build it? And then you would say, well, in order to build that thing, what do I need to know, right? Well, I need to know the length of this, the area of that, the specifications of this type of steel, X, Y, Z. This is the beginnings of breaking down a task for me. So it's just saying what do I need? What are the tools, pieces of information, the files that I need to open, right? Tools could be a lawnmower or an Excel spreadsheet, as I said. The items could be, again, a lawnmower, or some file that you have to open, or some piece of critical information, such as the yield strength of the particular steel that is used, or the particular what key are we playing this song on, right? Or those types of things. And if you just have an idea in your head, and you haven't sat down and said, okay, well, what exactly do I need? You're not going to start you're not going to get to the process until you lay down the things and say, well, it's going to be on this key and it's going to be on this or blah, blah, blah. And then from what I need, you're going to start seeing, because some of the first tasks will be, well, go get gas and put it in your lawnmower, right? That could be step number one. But until you sit down and really think about, well, I need lawnmower, I need gas, you're not going to realize you don't have gas. And you're not going to realize that step number one is to get gas. What are your thoughts on the question here about how to break down a task to bite-sized pieces to know what step one is?
Yeah. I mean, I like what you said. I'm also an intuitive, so often is the case that I'll just start doing stuff, and then I'll start to realize the other pieces that I need in order to actually do what it is I'm trying to do. And I think to other people, that approach can seem very confusing. So if like people were to watch me do certain things, they may actually be very confused and or think to themselves, well, why didn't you do that in the first place? Those kinds of things. But that's just, that's just how things work. Now, that doesn't work for everybody. And I would argue that most people, it doesn't work for. I think that you do need to have a certain level of aptitude to be able to do that. You can sort of get away with things if you, if you're quick on your feet, if you can kind of think through how to solve certain kinds of issues, certain kinds of problems. But let me ask you this question, because this is I'm a homeowner, and frequently, my wife will want to do stuff around the house, or she'll want to make changes, or we need to change some blinds. Actually, there's some blinds that have needed to be changed for a long time. I got to get to that. But let me ask you this question. How important are accurate measurements?
You could spend a whole lifetime measuring, and I won't even beef with you. Like, measuring is really, really important. Every carpenter out there knows the statement, measure twice and then cut once, right? Or measure 10 times and then cut once. Because when you cut something, that's it, right? It's wasted piece of wood now if that measurement was wrong. Now, hopefully you cut it too long, and then all you have to do is, shorten it up. But worst case scenario, you cut it too short and you messed it up. Or if it's yes, measurements and knowing your error too within measurements, right, is key. It's like, because if I told you something is 5 feet plus or minus a couple of inches, right, that's one thing. But 5 feet down to the 16th of an inch, like plus or minus 16th of an inch, that's something else. This is an additional thing I'm just adding now. But measurement is 100% very, very, very important. The whole sitting down and planning phase, right, which is akin to measurement. Sitting down and let me know exactly what this is. What are the parameters? Measure again, measure the third time. Yes, 100%. Go on.
Yeah, sometimes I think this is the usual thing, and it's, it's with different. It's usually when I'm dealing with someone, obviously with a different sort of personality type, a different sort of thing. We'll say, likely happens pretty often with my wife. We're very different. We have different ways that we process certain kind of information, right? So, I see. She is the kind that she gets like an image, a picture of something in her head, and then she just kind of knows what she needs to do to work that out. But she doesn't always explain like what it is that's happening, right? And so that can be somewhat challenging, because if you want to provide some assistance, it's hard to kind of know what somebody's thinking, especially if it is something that's sort of abstract, artistic and abstract, right?
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think a lot of the kind of work that she does, which is very creative, stuff that I could never do, off the charts creative and brilliant, and but some of the measurements are not actually critical, because because I think in her process, I think she's allowing for an amount of sort of randomization. So like whatever so say for instance, if I cut a board and that board is not the exact size that she was thinking of, she could still take it and make it work. Right? Because it's not, because what it is that she's making is not necessarily something that needs to support weight. It's a piece of art, right? So it's different. It's sort of different, right? But I think sometimes when you are trying to create something that can support weight, that has to have, so it has to obey certain rules about engineering stuff, right? I think folks that tend to be more creative that way won't necessarily be as precise with certain kinds of measurements. It's not that they're not capable of it. It's just that they're not. That's just not the way that they think about it, right? And I'm a creative, but there's like a detail sort of oriented thing that makes me want to focus on really small like details in logistics and stuff like that. So it's interesting when you're working with someone that is wired differently, how that sort of can bring out some of those nuances, some of those differences, and in the way that people perceive the nature of existence and all of that.
100%. Yeah, it reminds me of cooking, for example. Cooking is something that that I don't measure in, right? I'm not going to be measuring this, or when it comes to cooking, that's when I go full blown kind of creative, right? And
she does the same thing. She's the same thing, and in fact, like she'll make something and she really like. I mean, I love her cooking anyway, right? Yeah. And I don't think she's ever made anything that I didn't like, right? So she knows what she's doing, and she doesn't necessarily need to have a specific this spice and this spice and this and that. No, she just looks at what's there and she figures out what she's going to do, right? And it pretty much is always great, right? But a challenge with that is when you ever want to recreate something.
Yes,
precisely. That's the challenge.
I go backwards every time. In other words, I do the creative whatever, super intuitive. I'm not, I don't know what I'm doing, quote unquote, when I'm cooking all the time. But I always go backwards whenever anything kind of new happens to firm up certain principles. Like, for example, let me just state one thing about cooking, which is there's something about forming a base, right? Which is, let's say it's celery, onions, and carrots, whatever, and then in olive oil, let's say. Or shout out to what's the movie Goodfellas, thinly sliced garlic in the olive oil there. Everybody knows what a base is or roux is or that type of thing. There's certain principles about that, what that thing is, right? So why am I saying this? I'm saying like, look, there still are principles that are going on. It's not just some kind of crazy, and I know that the base and the principles of layering and cooking and blah, blah, blah. So I always go backwards to firm up the principles. It's like I'm doing all this experimentation and blah, blah, blah. And I know how things should taste. I know how things should feel. I know how things should look. So it's like that's in real time. That's what's guiding me. But backwards, I can tell you that, yes, here's what a base is. And the basis of a base, for example, if you take butter and soy sauce, for example, that's like a perfect base to start to cook anything on top. You get the creaminess and oil from the butter, and you get that umami and saltiness from the soy sauce. Same thing that I mentioned, whether it be onions and it's like you're seasoning the oil. You're seasoning the base of the thing, and or creating meat stock and stuff like that. So it's like, I know all these principles, okay? So that is what I can use to explain to somebody. But you know, Dr. Thunder, right, that all that stuff I just said still is not effective communication, right? I'm talking about these principles of the base, and it's still not. Look, people want to be like, what's step one of this damn cooking, Ike? Right? You're telling me the principle of a base, and it could be this, and it could be that, and but it's like,
look, I'm more of a, I can bake things, and because baking seems to be much more about following directions, and I can follow instructions well. But the stuff that you were just talking about, that's not stuff I'd ever be able to do. It would be wrong and bad every time, unless somebody could quantify it, because I'm not.
Got it.
I make eggs, 4 eggs over hard. That's my breakfast, and I put some salt on it.
There you go.
That's the extent of my cooking capability. Shout out to Technological Chaos, who says, the kind of issue Dr. Thunder is explaining with abstraction, creative issue, creative issue is very prevalent in IT circles. When software developers clash with UX designers in the industry, pretty big communication barrier. Thank you for the big $20 super chat. Let's go.
100%. Yeah, so we'll continue here with I'll play again the you don't know where to start thing. He went over it fairly quickly, but I think that it was worth going back to, because this is a huge one. Where do I start? And that goes to the capturing of the idea, breaking it down into bite-sized steps, and then knowing what to do. Mr. Chuku asked the question about how do you break it down into bite-sized steps. I say, well, just ask yourself, what do I need? What do I need in order for this to happen? And what could be a piece of information, some kind of end goal even, right? I need to end in this particular place, right? I'll know when it's done when it reaches this, or the tools that you need and all that kind of stuff. And from there, you start to see the steps that you need to take in order to get the tools, arrange the information, blah, blah, blah. Start seeing the relationships between the information and the tools, and then things start developing from there, right? As I said, it's like a word problem in math. There's a kind of a process to it. So let's continue.
Number 5, you really don't know where to start. Imagine you are told, here's your task. You got to get this done. And you said yes, but you're not really clear on what's expected of you. So when you come back to your desk or you're sitting by yourself, like, what is my step number 1 or number 2? What do I do next? I have no idea what to do next. So because you weren't given clear expectation, because you didn't ask the right question, you're sitting there saying, I don't really know what my first step is. What do I do next? So because you don't know what to do next, you procrastinate. Point number 6 is low energy. Some people call it lazy. Some people call it low energy, stamina, fatigue, endurance, whatever you want to call it. Is I'll give a task to somebody and you kind of know they're like, oh, okay. All right, so let me see if this is, we had a meeting the other day and I told my executives, there's a couple people in the office. If I ask for him to do a task, in my mind, I know it's not going to get done. So why do we have him over here? Well, let's find a way to rearrange him. You want to move somebody else to another department that they're not going to get the job done because every time they do, their energy is low and they're not excited about hitting their deadlines. Why are we moving somebody to a whole different department? No. We just have to figure out to realize, are we willing to lower standards and accept this kind of performance? Or do we need to go get somebody with high energy that's not lazy, that's willing to work and get the job done? Let's figure this thing out. Now, that may sound harsh to some people, but in reality, if you're in an environment that's a startup and everything is moving and somebody is low energy, sometimes you just don't get the deadlines done because your energy is just low and you got to increase your energy.
I'm like obsessed with energy preservation, and understanding, and when it comes into money, when the energy then blends into money, which is part of the same thing, understanding that, spending money now, right, in order to not do some stupid thing with your energy, such as going all around coupon clipping to try to save money, or going all around trying to, find your buddies and rent a truck and go get mulch from the whatever and then do that rather than just pay a gardener. Those types of things are very important. But in terms of just your own personal energy, that's when I go back to my whole kind of the body is where it begins, obviously. you have to be hydrated, and then you have to be well exercised. You have to watch your diet, right? There's no, you have to exercise to have energy, and you cannot achieve at any appreciable level without being highly energetic. There's certain kind of very, very stupid smart people, right? Very, very stupid smart people, I call them, because they're all in this, oh, it's all in my mind crap, right? And that's so stupid, you know? It's so ridiculous. Like, oh, you know, why are you focusing on the body? It doesn't matter. I don't even know where to begin. These people are obviously not very self-aware, because if you know your body at all, my whole kind of master your subjective consciousness thing, you can immediately see the link between the clarity of your head and also what's going on with your body, right? I talk about feeling, image, and talk. There's feelings in your body. They could be emotions or sensations or whatever, or, you know, or back pain, you know, emotions or sensations being examples of like back pain or numbness or just low energy. And that's going to affect the quality of your thought. You're a freaking idiot if you think that your thoughts are just kind of disconnected somewhere out there. Like, you know, it's just happening. And I could just be like, no, it doesn't work that way. I don't know. What are your thoughts about this energy thing?
Yeah. You know, I say frequently that we talk a lot about how, you know, time waits for no one. You know, time is the only thing that we don't get any more of, you know, all of that kind of stuff, but we don't talk very much about energy. And I would argue that it is possible for you to have time and not have energy. And so I might suggest that energy is the most important, right? So I think it's of critical importance that the people that you try to have around you have a high motor. You don't want somebody in there sucking the oxygen out of the room, either by the way that their sort of their vibe, their energy, their mood, the way that their mood is, can sort of suck the oxygen out of the room. You know, CGA calls them oxygen thieves. That's a problem. And remember that, you know, birds of a feather flock together. And so here's an issue to try to solve. If you have a group of people that you are frequently around, and you notice that you describe them as being low energy, you describe them as being not particularly motivated, guess what? They're probably pulling you down to them. So you have to control who it is that you're around, because it can either boost your energy in you know, in those times when you don't feel like you have very much energy. You can actually be motivated by those that actually do have a lot of energy. You know, you can either do that, or you can be drugged down by people that have sort of low energy, right? Now, yes, hydration is key, diet and exercise, sleeping. There's lots of things like that. You know, understanding your biorhythm, I think that's important. And everybody's biorhythm is not the same, right? So, you know, I like this principle also, and this has to do with the overall fighting procrastination thing, is whenever you begin doing something, so say you have a block of time, you're just like, okay, I have to get this project done, and you know there's an aspect of that project that you really don't want to do, right? So go ahead and do that first, because the other aspects of the project that you do enjoy, you're going to enjoy those anyway. You're going to like them anyway, and you may actually feel energized by doing them. Whereas the thing that you don't like to do, if you wait until last, not only are you going to have no energy for it, no attention, it's you'll likely put it off or whatever. It'll be lackadaisical, and it won't be any good. So I think understanding the sort of things that you naturally that you sort of gravitate towards, and use those things to incentivize the stuff that you don't like to do, right? That's a way to sort of play a psychological trick with the energy.
Now, we're speaking about teams or communication. You were talking about your wife, the way she envisions, visualizes, perceives, and then operates in the world, versus then getting that thing communicated over to you, let's say, or someone else. I was talking about the way I cook, and I was talking about all these principles that I have, but because I'm not used to, getting all these, steps in doing things in steps in this particular arena, then I can't really tell you. I could just tell you, I could write whole books about the essence of what the base of, is, and the essence of layering. Why you don't just throw everything, why don't you just throw everything in the pot, Dr. Thunder, and cook, right? That kind of thing. Why do you have to start somewhere and then go and then? I can say all those types of things, but it's not going to, this is the type of thing that somebody already knows how to cook. That's the kind of person that will read that book, right? Because it's not telling you how to cook. It's just waxing poetic about the beauty of the process. Now, I'm sharing here on my screen. I don't know if you see it, Dr. Thunder. This is about the communication stuff, right? So it says, over here on the left, it says, how customer explained it, right? Which, by the way, is already crazy. The customer is not very good at explaining, because they want a 3-tiered swing, apparently, which probably it should be sideways, right? I'm assuming they want 3 swings maybe, but they explained it with I want 3 swings stacked on each other. So it already starts, and then here's the project leader understanding it to be this kind of a swing that somehow is in, it's right there in between the tree. And then here comes the engineer. Engineer is like, how do I make this work, right? The project executive or leader said this. Engineer says, well, the only way this swing can swing is if I cut this damn tree, right? And then I support it over here. And here the swing can swing. So the engineer, does his job based on what was communicated. And then the programmer, I don't know what happened here. But this is how the program. And then here's the salesperson. This chair comes with sunshine. It's blue. It's this and that, right? This is how the salesperson. So this always happens, right? Salespeople going out there saying, "Hey, yes, we'll do it. We'll cut it, kit it, pre-assemble it, ship it. We'll deliver it in a white glove, blah blah blah." And it's not even what the customer said they wanted. Somebody is miscommunicating about something, typically. And then the engineer part, and the reason why the only thing that makes sense here is the engineer part, which is that whatever the engineer is given, they have to make it work, right? And then that's why the communication of what exactly is needed is important, right? Because the engineer made this crazy thing that the project leader said. But which one is this? It says, and then it continues. It says how the project was documented, which is zero documentation apparently. And then what operations installed, okay, which is just a rope. How customer was billed, okay, the customer was billed for a freaking amusement park, right? Thousands of dollars, okay? And then how the help desk supported, and then what customer really, this is what the customer actually wanted. They wanted a tire. not a 3-tier, it was a tire swing, not a tiered swing. Okay, that just came into my head. But yeah. So communication is very important here. Let me go ahead and re-share what is going on here. Now, but the energy thing, okay? I don't know if you encounter, I talk about that smart, dumb person. And have you ever encountered that type, or is this something that you ever noticed, that there are people out here whom kind of they let themselves go, and they think that, the health thing or the working out thing is all about vanity. But sure, trust me, I like looking good. So that's part of it too, okay? But they just think that they can just be slobs and operate, even though it's mentally, right? at the highest level. And it, do you have you ever experienced that with these people out here?
Yeah, there are folks that and they're not fooling anyone with that.
Mhm.
It's obvious that they're just lazy, and you know what I'm saying. That in this other talk, which makes them appear to be deep in, um, provocative,
Mhm.
because they're pushing back against the system. They're pushing back against, all of these vain, um, all of these vain people, uh, this kind of thing. But really, what it is that they actually wish they look like that, but they're not willing to put the work in. But the next best thing, so that they can save face, is to act as though they actually have some deep philosophical problem, or even a moral problem, with uh, you know with working out, because they don't, or people will say stuff like this. I would really work out, but I think if I was really fit, I think I would be full of myself. I think I would really be vain. I don't think I could, and really what they're trying to do is they're trying to sneak diss you. So if you're in shape and they're not, they're trying to sneak diss you. They're trying to put on you that you're probably, egotistical, and secretly, at night you spend an hour in front of the mirror, posing before you go to bed. That's what it's a sneak diss, right? But
Mhm.
any way to make them feel
Mhm.
better about themselves. I, that kind of stuff, I don't have a lot of patience for that kind of stuff. And as soon as the conversation starts going that way, it's like, dude, you know, just say you don't want to work out, and we can just be done.
100%. Yeah. I remember telling somebody to take a deep breath once. In other words, like I always tell people to take deep breaths. But in terms to elucidate this point about how it affects like the clarity of their thought, because I know most people don't do that whole either meditation or understanding what it actually is about. And I just told him like, okay, well, just take a deep breath now, right now where you are, and because 9 times out of 10, people's breath is shallow, right? I know that, right? That's just how people are, right? And then I asked, were honest enough to note the change and the clarity just on that second of how their brain was working. They were perceptive enough, right? First of all, because some people are just gonna be like, oh, my body's relaxed and all that kind of stuff. But they could see that, I'm actually thinking clearer now. I'm actually more present, more engaged, if you will, simply by just that one simple breath, which is a body type thing. And then, so how much more the hydration and the exercise and the diet and all that kind of stuff, layering that constantly with good body habits, good posture, everything like that. And then, because anyways, let me not go on and on and on about this thing. Made a whole video about my pyramid method there, about the checklist that you do. Because I do the same thing too with medicine. Let's say, like when it comes to, well, should I take this pill right now for this particular ache or whatever it is? I'm not going to take the pill until I go through and I make sure that everything else is on point. So I'm going to take an hour to hydrate. I'm going to make sure that there's certain things that in my body are good. I'm going to make sure I pull out my baseball or my golf ball that I use to kind of massage certain parts of my body, because that could be the issue, right? Make sure that the shoulders are loose and all those other types of things. And then by the time you get to the end of an hour and a half to 2 hours, you may realize you don't need the pill, or you realize that, there's this last aspect that the pill will be just what the doctor ordered, if you will, to just clear it off. But what people do is they just take the pill right from the beginning. So there they are, dehydrated, not properly this and that and the other. There's still a freaking knot in their shoulder, right? And they just decided to take a pill. It's
So
anyway.
you're saying you're a Scientologist?
Yeah.
No drugs. No drugs. No
No
drugs.
drugs. No drugs.
I yeah, we just take the pill and then pray. anyhow, yeah, that's a lot of inside baseball there. But this comment that you have on the sheet on the screen, I was actually hoping that you put that up there. So I want to get your take of it first, and then I have an observation about the statement.
Okay, it says, I hope all is well. Vibration is the first law of nature. Vibratory frequency is how you work well with others, or how it's hard to work well with others. The reason I put it up there is because I don't know what it means.
Okay, so and you probably and likely for the reason that I'm going to mention. So it's like a mixed metaphor, or it's like applying a principle that operates in one medium to another medium, where all of the physics and all of the laws of interaction are completely different. It doesn't. One doesn't apply. One doesn't relate to the other, right? Yeah. Yes, the first law of nature is vibration. I'm okay with that. Maybe I'll frame it differently, but I'm okay with that. But vibratory frequency is how you work well with others. Now that is not. You might as well say, you might as well use different words and just say two separate statements that don't have to be related together. They don't have to be related to each other, right? You could say vibration is the first law of nature, and then you could say working well with others, is important to, for productivity or something like this, right?
Let me. So things are coming to mind, right? Like, okay, so you talk about first rules of nature, vibration, and then you can even then bring into vibration like harmony, right? And then you say then in the next phase that harmony, okay, is important with working with other people, okay? Because the simple kind of vibe thing, but go ahead.
Yeah, no. That's good. That's good what you just said. And I hope this doesn't seem like we're
No.
We're
not coming for you, Rael. There's a reason I put it up there, because let me mention one thing now that we're kind of stating this is the difference between, okay, and I'm going to bring in this crazy psychology that I always bring up every time we know the MBTI personality type. There's the people that are thinkers and the people that are feelers. And to the feelers out there, it's not what you think it is, so don't feel bad if you're a feeler, okay? But you see, thinkers like myself and Dr. Thunder can't vibe well with this type of thing. It's not like we can't unpack it. We just started unpacking it, right? But it's not the way we would speak, okay? Because there's just too many feels. It's all like, oh yeah, the vibration and then the vibe. And it's like, no. The principle of working with people, I know that harmony is important. I mentioned harmony, right? And then I'm going to start talking about the different aspects of people that may be different. You mentioned, for example, the Beethoven type versus the Mozart type, and recognizing these different types in a team, and then knowing how they may clash, and therefore augmenting and doing certain things such that this clash is, not as bad, or that it works together in harmony. Bring that word again. So it's going to be very quickly granularized, contextualized. You're going to see levers come out all of a sudden. It's going to be like, by levers, I mean things that you can actually do and move around, as opposed, because the issue with statements like this is there is no handles, nothing to move around. It's one undifferentiated mass, right? And feelings tend to be that way, right? Feelings or values or all that type of stuff, like, or saying something like, the family is the most blah, whatever, those types of things, rather than saying, okay, it is about a particular goal. After all, what is the goal of the family? It's about X, Y, Z. Okay, well, how do we best test this, given limited resources and given it these people's personality, blah, blah, blah. So thinkers, even though we can get what you're saying and unpack it, we just never would speak this way. But go ahead, Dr. Thunder.
Yeah. So that was basically it. But it's interesting, the sort of this is a frequent thing that I find sort of artistic kind of people talking in ways that I know what they mean, but there is no real connection between the statements. made, because
It's
there
a,
is
yeah.
no, it's as if they're using the same word which actually means something totally different, but it just happens to be spelled the same way.
Yeah, there's
know?
a scale thing going on that you mentioned earlier, but you talk about mediums. You said, okay, vibration in one medium. So if you go down to like material, matter, right? And then when you aggregate this matter and it becomes a human being, and you still keep using the same word in the same way, calling it vibration, you've lost all kinds of information, right? It's like, it's not vibration anymore, man. It's still vibration, still all vibrations all the way down, but how can I work that, right? Give me something to work. Tell me personality vis-a-vis a particular goal. How does this personality manifest itself? Tell me cognitive functions. For example, like somebody whom is very focused on, let's say, what they call TI, which is, logic, versus someone whom is focused on making everybody feel good all the time, FE, blah, 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 right? And that how do I make these two types of people work? Rather than, just if you keep it at just, vibrations, just make sure that you're vibrating at the right frequency together. That's not actionable. Okay. And
it's not actionable, and it's not, it's okay. So with an analogy, so it's okay. It's like taking an analogy and trying to make it some sort of, some kind of proof. You've taken something that if you would say, the vibration. Let's see here. Where's that comment again? Let's see here. Okay, there it is. Vibration is the first law of nature. I mean, you could say something like, if you follow the analogy, vibration as it relates to nature, and vibration as it relates to, I don't know. I wouldn't even want to use the vibration. Well, maybe. But you know what I'm saying? It's like you're taking an analogy, something that is intended to be different mediums, and just basically trying to talk about something that is abstract, that seems to have some sort of relationship, but is not a scientific thing, and trying to make it scientific. It's not scientific. It's not. And that's okay. That's okay. It doesn't take anything away from what the point is. It's just, it's just not. We should.
No, I think this is very useful, because it actually does, to the whole point about working well with others. This is what we're doing right now is very useful, because Rael needs to know, because you're around creatives a lot. I also tend to be around creatives a lot, not in my engineering capacity, but in my other capacity, in many other capacities, right? So it tends to be that I'm sure you're the minority in the room, like the kind of thinking dominated type person, right? In the room, most likely that's you, and I'm that person too. So it tends to be the case that the feelers, the creative feelers out there, don't even know that either we exist or how we exist, or how we're taking what they're saying, right? Or why, because and then there's a certain amount of misunderstanding, miscommunication, clashes, or whatever. So it's good that we're saying because there's a proliferation of how they talk out there. You can read The Secret, or What the Bleep Do We Know, or every other thing out there is just filled with language like this, right? I talk about meditation a lot. 99.9% of stuff in meditation is filled with language such as this. If you come to me and ask me about meditation, that's when you're going to start hearing things such as feeling, and image, and talk. You're going to talk about concentration, sensory clarity, and equanimity, and this, that, and the other. Like it's going to be very different. I'm not going to talk about your vibes, okay? Now when let's say if I'm communicating with a vibe type person, and I'm telling them, okay, take this breath, okay, cool. Now you're increasing concentration, and concentration works like in a circle with relaxation, because when you want to concentrate, you relax. And then the more you relax, the more you can concentrate. And then there's that, blah, blah, blah. So all that kind of stuff. And then they feel it, and then they get in the vibes, and then they may throw out some vibe language out there, right? And I'm like, yeah, I get it. I'm fine. But I'm not, it's not my role. What would it be? What would I be contributing to the whole conversation? Okay. If I came in and I said the same thing you guys were saying, it's like, no, the way I think is, okay, fill in the image talk, concentration, sensory clarity, equanimity. These are the tools you use to train these particular muscles. These are the ways it's going to happen, blah, blah, blah. And this is how it's all related. It's not magic. It's not in the sky type stuff. Not because I'm trying to kill the vibe of the room, right? Which they tend to think I'm doing. But anyways, I don't know. I just, it's important that every once in a while, us, the thinking types in the creative rooms, speak up sometimes.
Yeah, let me tell you, I actually think that so because some people will tell you that, yeah, I like to have conversations, or I like to have deep conversations, or I like to talk, deep like this. But when you actually try to have a deep conversation, they actually get frustrated. They get frustrated with the detail and the nuance that you labor about. And in my mind, that stuff is like the most important stuff. That's the actually interesting stuff. But it's not interesting to everyone, and everyone doesn't want to do that. And it's okay that everyone doesn't want to do that. So long as you're not trying to make them do something they don't want to do, and they're not judging you or for wanting to judging you in the way that you just said, killing the vibe, and and creating an issue when there is no issue, and all that kind of stuff. It's like, well, I actually like to talk about stuff like this. This is enjoyable to me. Well,
exactly.
Maybe it's not enjoyable to you, but I'm not telling you that you're a POS because in low IQ because you can't hang.
100%. And I think, by the way, that ratio of one Dr. Thunder in the creative room for every 100 feeler creatives is the right ratio, because you only need one person to granularize and articulate, document such that it is communicable in a, let's just use the word scientific, okay? In a scientific way, right? So you don't need 1,000 people doing that. Like, let everybody else be vibing and feeling and doing all that stuff. All you need is one person there to capture, compartmentalize, granularize, articulate, document, communicate for the future, that kind of shit. But anyways.
I'll tell you but I'll just, and maybe this is just a one more detail about this. The thing about this sort of challenges in some of these sort of communications that frustrates me the most, it's not that other people have a different mode of communication. Other people have different interests. People may not be interested in what I'm interested in. What is most frustrating to me is it always comes across as I'm being judged or I'm being criticized for for what it is that I am for what it is that I want to talk about, or for this sort of detail. Whereas I'm not criticizing other people for not wanting to talk, on a particular level. I'm not doing that. So it always seems like, I'm not, I don't want it to seem like I'm crying about this or something, or whining about it. But I would suspect that most people that want to be granular that way likely experience things that way, where they feel as though their their way of their process is sort of under scrutiny in a way that they do not scrutinize other folks. Hey, if you don't want to talk about this, fine. Don't be upset if we, if we're not going to talk. That's fine. That's kind of my thing. But if we are going to talk, then you understand.
Let's get into it. Let's talk about
Yeah.
Let's talk about the different layers. Let's talk about different mediums, different scales, different types of vibration, different analogy. Let's get in there. Let's spend an hour talking about this vibration shit.
That's right.
Why not? So yes, the granular introvert is probably the most demonized human being out there. Okay, it's because you're out there. Anyways, you already know, you live it. So I know I'm not going to go.
Point number 7 is very simple. It's boredom. A lot of times you're given a project, or you accept a project, or you take an assignment, or it's even for yourself, and you're trying to get this one thing done, this task done. You got a deadline. You just kind of sitting here like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I have to do this. You want me to pay my bills on time. This is so flippin' boring. It's driving me nuts. I just don't want to deal with it right now. You set it aside, right? Due to boredom. Now, that doesn't mean that's the right decision you made, but sometimes we procrastinate because whatever project we're working on is absolutely boring. Point number.
So he just said a thing there. What do you have to say about that? He just said boredom is why people. Yeah, sure. Yeah, we say, the first thing that comes to mind is, is that we're just saying we're bored because we don't know maybe it's because of part 5, we don't know where to start. So we're not excited about the project. We don't see any handles. We don't see where to start. So we're just claiming to be bored. Or is it something just really, really boring, like doing your bills? In which case I would say that sometimes it is good to kind of turn away from, if you don't have if you feel bored about a particular task and you have many other tasks in the calendar for that day, fine, just rearrange that. Go and do something, like you just feel like being creative right now. You're like, you know what, I could totally write it. Because for me, it's never stop. I talk about task switching, location switching, position switching, right? And medium switching, which means while you're doing something, switching from one task to the other is fine. And then going back to another task. Switching from one particular medium, as in, I'm working on a computer, but I'm gonna just go start working with a pen and paper. Or I'm sitting down, I'm gonna stand up. Or I'm in the kitchen, I'm going to Starbucks, right? All these types of changes are kind of help the flow going. The point is, don't stop though. Don't stop doing stuff, because sometimes you're just like, what I do is when I see something in the calendar, I'm just like, God, I want to do the bills right now, right? And I look at the next thing in the calendar, which is like, write that blah, blah, blah. Something creative is like, I could totally do something creative right now. Boom, I go to the creative stuff, because I look at it as having different batteries, just going on to the energy thing again. You have different kind of different charges for different types of tasks or different types of activities. Because like my mundane, stupid paying bills battery is low right now, but apparently my creative battery is really high. So let me just grab this piece of paper, grab a cup of coffee, and do this creative thing. And it turns out that it's often the case that after I'm done with that, then I'm ready to do the stupid bills again. I don't know what are your thoughts about this boredom thing?
Yeah. So, you want to stay engaged. Being engaged, that sort of intensity, the effort, it's not just laying a piece of sandpaper on the table. It's all of the elbow grease and intensity with the sandpaper, right? That actually produces results. And so if you're just bored and doing it lackadaisically, you're not going to get anything out of that. So yes, that is true. And when you start to get bored, I think it is a good strategy to change what it is that you're doing. Something that I tell my students, a principle that I've talked to them is about, it's my analogy, which is, there's layers to this, there's levels to it, there's, but it's my analogy, putting it on the back burner. Okay. Now, these days, when people say put it on the back burner, often is the case, what they actually are saying is take it off the stove, right? Because discontinuing something for 6 months, that is not putting it on the back burner. That's taking it off the stove. Matter of fact, that's throwing out the contents you know, and using the receptacle for something else for several months. That's not even, you know, it's not even that. So when you put something on the back burner, what it does is, so say if you have 4 elements, a modern stove, the back elements are also capable of intense heat. So it's not as if they're not still in process, right? It's just that they're not the focus right now. You're seasoning the stuff on the front, right? You're stirring the stuff that's on the front, and it is possible to season and stir too much, right? So then you move it back, right? And it's possible to leave stuff on the back burner too long. Okay, so you're constantly rotating, and the thing is that people are multifaceted. You're multifaceted. You're not one-dimensional. However, what can happen is if you're frustrated, whatever the thing that you're frustrated with can make it appear as though things are worse than they actually are. Because in other ways, you could actually still be on the incline. You could still actually, the trajectory is still pretty steep. But once you start to plateau, the longer that you're plateaued, the more frustrated you're likely to get. The more you're frustrated, the more likely that you'll just give up on whatever it is. Unfortunately, when you give up, it also impacts the trajectory of your other qualities, you know, the other aspects of you, right? And so other things can start to decline because you have allowed one area of frustration to convince you that, you know, that things are worse than they are, you know, in X, Y, and Z. So your ability to deal with the sort of natural frustration while you're plateaued, and to get to the place where you achieve that exponential growth, because that is a natural phenomena. That's something that we see everywhere. You see it in muscle training. You see it in musicianship. You see it in your ability to think on complex matters. You know, philosophy, theology. I mean, every discipline, you see the same thing, and that is you keep struggling and struggling and struggling. You don't seem like you're getting anywhere, and then all of a sudden you can just do it, and you can do it a lot better than you could do it a day ago or 2 days ago. Right?
Indeed.
Your brain needs time. Your brain needs time to burn these more direct pathways and to figure out what it is that you're trying to tell it to do. It needs time. Your tissue, your muscles need time to repair, right? And then to heal the old tissue, which is actually what produces more muscle. Right? So it takes time. So you're not going to achieve it overnight. So you have to have that sort of patience. And so as you're maintaining intensity, maintaining focus, you know, keeping your energy level high, staying motivated, all of that kind of stuff, by putting it on the back burner, right? Putting something else on the front burner, putting it on the back burner, putting something else on the front burner. As you're doing that, everything is climbing.
Yes.
You turn the stove off because you're frustrated because one thing is not happening. Now everything goes down.
Yes. And this the question that was asked earlier about how to knowing where to start, you know, breaking down the goal into bite-sized objectives, knowing how to start. What you said also reminds me of a part of the answer to that question, which is when you adequately capture the task and you kind of not, but it's still a big lump and you're looking at it and it may be kind of like, well, what do I do with this? That's fine. Leave it there in that list, right? I like to actually put such tasks on my big whiteboard so that when I walk in the room, I see it, right? As opposed to it's often in Outlook somewhere in the calendar, right? So I see that task. I haven't granularized it yet. And then I move away from it. I'm doing other things. The point is, my brain is cooking it, right? I'm, it's, and then at some point, okay, obviously before the task is due, right? I'm gonna walk in that room one day, okay, look at that thing, and boom, all the little kind of bite-sized steps are gonna just come out, right? I'm not gonna force them to come out the first time. If I'm like looking at it, I'm like, it's not working, I'm like, fine, put it aside, put it in the back burner, as you said, let it be cooking over there. You just put it on a low simmer, right? And I'm doing some other things, letting whatever is going on at some point. And that's why the term sleep on it. I don't know when it started. I don't know when that particular English phrase, or if it actually was indeed in original English, sleep on it is very, very smart. Because go sleep. It doesn't mean be thinking about it. Like, just go, let the brain work. Let the brain do its thing. Don't force shit to happen.
Yeah, I want to say this in, I'm not a, stuff like tricks, gimmicks, magic, that kind of stuff. That's stuff that I resist. I resist at all cost. And I try not to present things as if there's some sort of hack or cheat or that kind of thing, because what that seems to communicate is, right, because there's a certain kind of person, when they hear you say that, they're like, oh, finally, I don't have to work as hard. That's the natural thing that people experience. It's the natural thing that they experience. Like, oh, finally, easier way. No, you need to keep cranking as hard, but use this as a benefit. Okay. And maybe a different perspective on it can help you to, channel that energy in a more productive way. That's fine. That's good. Maybe you put just as much energy in you get an exponential growth rather than just an incremental growth. Okay, that's great. I'm good with that. But the magic, all of that kind of stuff, I'm not a fan of that.
Yes.
See, what was saying? Okay, so the reason that something like sleep on it would actually work, it's not because of the vibrations of the universe. It's not because of the barometric pressure and the it's not because of the direction of the wind. It's not because of the
you mean it's not because it's in retrograde and something, and my horoscope is? You mean it's not that?
No, it's not because of your astrological sign. It's not because of what is it? What is it? Astronomy friends or whatever that was. Astrology friends, whatever that was. It's not because of any of that. It's actually because your brain is actually burning new pathways. It perceives, it understands that it cannot solve this problem that you're presenting it with unless it is able to rest, and while it's resting, burning these new pathways. See, and every single time, people will try to, I don't know, it's like people like the mystical, they like the mystique, they like all of that, and they like to, okay, look, all right, if you lost $5 in your jeans pants pocket, then you get in the washer, in the dryer, and then you find the $5. Is it really God that is blessing you? Okay, now, I'm not saying, look, man, I'm not taking, God gave you the money in the first place. Okay, so
it's vibe killer. I was giving a testimony over here. Go ahead.
Look, God gave you the money in the first place. Okay, so yes, I'm down with that. But perhaps what you're calling a blessing is actually a sign that you need to change one of your processes, right? Like check your pants pockets better before you put them in the dryer. Like fix that issue so then you don't lose the money in the first place, right? So I don't know, and maybe that's like a killjoy, you know, and like people don't like their sacred cows, you know, to be slaughtered in that way, right in front of their face while you force them to watch. You hold their head and open their eyes, force them to have their eyes open while you kill the sacred cow. They probably don't like that, but it's just okay. Anyhow,
what you have done here is to force people to kind of focus on the physical aspect. You talk about the burning of new paths, right? So
right.
The whole physical substrate thinking is something that's just like axiomatic to me. Like I never have to remind myself. I don't float away into, you know what I mean? So with all my woo-like sounding things, and it's good that you actually mention it, because I don't realize that people avoid this substrate type thinking, right? It's almost like, you know, and it's what the postmodernists have done. It's like, it could be, oh, you're tying it to laziness as well, because, you know, the substrate, the physical, it drags you down, right? You're like, oh, it actually has to slowly burn this pathway. Yes, you know, the brain is meat, you know, stuff is stuff, bro. You know, and you know, space, time, causality. This is the realm in which we're operating in. It drags people down in a certain way. I tend not to think about it at all. I know that it's a physical substrate that is happening there when I say sleep on it. I know what's going on in the head when I say that, you know, I'm just going to put it in the back burner and let the brain work it out. You know, it's not angels back there, you know, weaving the thing together. Or if I were to call it angels, I'll just be saying it would just be an analogy, right? Mm-hmm. Or my brain cells are angels. Then it's just wordplay at that point. And it doesn't matter. Maybe cells are angels. But the point is, there's a process to it. There's a process by which the angels go through, and it takes time, and it stitches stuff. And by process, I mean repeatable, scientific, blah, blah, blah. That there's just rules to it. It's not just, oh, this, you know, it's just like you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying, right?
And we procrastinate because whatever project we're working on is absolutely boring. Point number 8, your leader, your example, procrastinates, so do you. You're in an office. Many offices have a culture of procrastination. Like, no one really takes deadlines that seriously. No one really takes projects that seriously.
I like this. Tech startups.
Procrastination. Like, no one really takes deadlines that seriously. No one really takes projects that seriously. I know this sounds kind of strange, but there are many businesses that are okay if deadlines are not met. They're very casual about it. So guess what happens? If that's the culture from the top and it's accepted, anybody else in that culture is okay with procrastination. Point number 9.
You have to be as a leader on the top. Yeah, go ahead.
I guarantee you, if I'm in a job and I find myself in a meeting when a guy gets on the desk, starts dancing, and starts hollering through a bullhorn, I will know that my life has been a failure. I will know that I'm in the wrong place, and every decision I made for the last 6 months, I need to seriously rethink, and as much as it possible, try to go in the exact opposite direction.
Have you seen No Country for Old Men?
I have, but it's been a while.
A long time ago. A while ago. There was this scene when the bad guy, Anton, whatever, is gonna kill. There's this popular actor, I don't know his name, but the cowboy hat wearing guy in the show. Gonna kill him in the hotel room with a silenced shotgun. And he asked him a question. He said, "May I ask you a question?" Right? You know, very polite while he's about to kill him. He says, "If the path that you followed led you to this point, of what use is the path?" I just remember that because you were saying, like, if this is where I've ended up.
Yeah.
This is, you know.
That's right. If this is where my path is led, what is the use of the path? That's facts. That is fact. If
Shout
I
out.
was one of them people that by compulsion, by force, by what am I saying? By the cultural force, the cultural pressure to stand up and celebrate this idiot while he's on the table and dancing, I will know. That ain't it.
One thing about this whole kind of culture here of so culture of procrastination, culture of because he's talking about the leadership of an organization, right? Woody Harrelson, yes, that's the leader. That's the actor that was about to get murked in that scene, and he asked him about that movie is filled with. And by the way, I didn't notice that there's no music in that movie, which is one of the. I like stuff like that, by the way. No shade to Dr. Thunder and other musicians out there. I like music. I do like music, but there's no music in that. Nothing in the whole freaking thing. No background music. It's just desert tumbleweed and people getting asked philosophical questions before they get killed. Beautiful. Anyways, leadership from the top.
Woody Harrelson.
Yes, Woody Harrelson. You have to assume that whatever standards you set at the top, when it trickles down, it's going to get watered down. Okay. Another way of saying it is that you're the man, you're the leader, or let's say it's your business. No one is going to work harder for you than you work for yourself, right? So if you even give the inkling of like chillax, okay, you got to do that carefully is what I mean, right? So there's certain rooms that I can be like, be doing certain type of chillax type stuff, as long as people understand, as long as I know very well that these people are hard-nosed, grindstone type people, right? And they're not going to take what I'm saying to make some kind of excuse about it, as you were saying. Oh, I guess I could chill now, right? That kind of a thing. So when it comes to deadlines, for example, I don't like that because there's the you send a client a proposal, and in that proposal it has certain standards. Takes about 4 to 6 weeks to do this, and then doing this is an additional 3 to blah 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 weeks. I'm like always, no, let's push that. You know what? I don't want to follow that. I hate when people are like, oh, but the contract says, right? Telling the client that well, it says over here that it should take. It's like, if the guy needs it quicker, if he says he needs it in a day, try to get it in a day. Yes, the freaking bill, the terms and conditions says 4 to 6 weeks or whatever. But no. So when I'm up there beating the drum about like, oh, how it has to be a day, that's because I know that when it trickles down, it's gonna mean like 4 days or a week, right? That's their stretch goal. That's their blah blah blah. If I say a week, it's gonna be 4 weeks, right? So from the top, the message has to be clear and it has to be the highest standard. You can't chill your standard. Now, this is for somebody who is starting something and, in a position of leadership. You got to recognize that you cannot, what you consider chill is just an excuse for other people to just become lazy, right? So there's some people that you can talk about chill with, and you got to be very careful who those people are. Your high level generals and lieutenants or whatever, that word chill means something different. Chill for them means probably like, let's actually have a cup of coffee and just take a couple of breaths, right? Chill for the rest of the people means, oh, I'm going to take the week off, right? So that's why the standard has to be set up from on high. I don't know if you have anything to say about the previous point about the culture of procrastination coming from on top.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, procrastination is a common issue. And so chances are that you're going to be working with people that have a tendency to procrastinate. And It could be your boss, so what are you going to do? What I would try to do as much as possible is try to get around people that are, as I said before, high motors, high achievers that are getting a lot of stuff done, that don't procrastinate too greatly. Now I'm going to say this though, because there's a difference between procrastinating and
And being a last minute person.
Right. Procrastinating and being ineffective. Ineffective is not what I want to say. Something sort of like that. Something more. Is
it something in the quality dimension that you're?
Well, it's more like there are a lot of people that are actually high achievers that procrastinate.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I mean. So it's possible to overcome procrastinating just with sort of raw talent or intellect or something. It's possible to, but you would accomplish a lot more and be much more efficient if you didn't procrastinate. So before somebody out there starts to think the idea, well, I'm a millionaire, I'm doing just fine, I procrastinate all the time, or I know a millionaire that procrastinates all the time. This is usually what they do. I know a millionaire that procrastinates all the time, so I don't think there's really an issue with procrastinating.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that millionaire would be a millionaire. And
yeah, the thing is, so as someone who does a lot of things, there are some areas where I'm more on point with regards to these principles than others, right? And the areas where I'm not as on point, I'm just grinding through based on high octane energy or talent or whatever, right? Right. But I know that, and I know it's not ideal or whatever, right? So let's say somebody saw me on the stuff where I'm not at my best, and they're like, oh, but I just kind of wings it. It's like, that's a wrong, it's the wrong thing. The things that I'm doing, like I'm already doing 100 times more things than you. You can't be looking at the thing I'm winging over here in the periphery and saying it's okay for me to wing my whole life because Ike wings his YouTube channel or some shit like that, right?
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and it's a great point, and okay, so the using another person's failing as a justification for you to fail, right? Is never going to be a good strategy. That's never going to work out for you. That's never going to be a plus. It's never going to be good. And I'm reminded of students, past students that will use what they perceive as a deficiency of legendary musicians as a justification for them to not develop in a particular way, which would be beneficial to them. And it's just not a good look. Because again, it's very obvious to everyone what it is that you're actually doing. You're not deep, you're not profound, you're not, hey, who am I to question the master? No, that's not what you're doing. You're trying to use that as a way to be lazy, to procrastinate more, to create an excuse that just happens to be framed as an explanation.
Hmm. Yeah, people like to bring up Steve Jobs or whatever. In other, you use the musician example, but in the engineering slash marketing world, people like to bring up these legends, right, and talk about all the silly things that they did, or all the ways in which they may be seen, like, yeah, he never wore shoes, so
Or Uch and such was a total jerk, but see,
Yeah.
they still did this and that, and it's like, well, that's cool. That's cool for you to acknowledge that, and okay, that's great, but I don't know what that does for you though. I still don't know how that relates to you. That's a nice story you just told, but how does that help you? Because I guarantee you, if you start being a jerk, nobody's going to want to deal with you. Okay. Now, hey, you can say, hey, but such and such is a jerk. Okay, go ahead, try that. See if that works for you. It's not a good idea to emulate a person's failings.
So on this point here, which perhaps because we're past the hour and a half mark, so we'll probably stop here and continue with point 9 next time, which looks interesting, talking about the team here. But this very point about leadership and setting the standards with regards to procrastination, because most people procrastinate, taking something that you said earlier, this is a great opportunity, is it not, Dr. Thunder? Because I'm sure the way you get and retain, especially retain certain clients, is about this very simple point, right? So your quality of work obviously is going to be good and all those other types of things, but one little thing you can do better than the competition is just deliver quicker, or be a good estimator of time. Going back to number 1, tell the client it's going to be delivered on Monday, and then deliver it on Monday, right? There's a dearth of that type of accountability out there. Hence, you are highly differentiated by simply doing something this simple. Again, I mentioned quality because let's say your quality is also good, but quality is this kind of thing where it's an asymptote for the mathematicians out there, or if you keep, you can only get so good at quality if you're competing with other people. But hey, you could just deliver quicker, and all of a sudden, you're winning, right? So, anything to say about this aspect of getting clients, retaining clients, building a reputation of accountability and such, simply by delivering on time? And this makes or breaks businesses. This is not just something I'm pulling on my ass here. This is especially with stuff like let's call it design work or creative work of a particular kind. Creative work, let's say you're writing a score or something like that. Design work, you're an architect or you're an engineer or something like that. That thing of delivering quicker than the other people, oh my God, it's such a simple binary thing. That's why I'm saying it, right? Just deliver quicker and be consistent in that, and you can make a whole lot of money.
Yeah, it's interesting because the whole the whole deal with getting new clients, maintaining old clients, the whole freelance musician thing. There's a direct relationship between musicians that show up on time, that they over deliver, they under promise and over deliver, right? They deliver a high quality product. There's a particular dress code. They look good. They communicated with the client enough for them to feel totally comfortable and confident about what it was they were going to do. And they were, all of the service stuff, your attitude, you're smiling when you talk to them, you're doing all of the stuff that you're supposed to do. I know so many musicians that killed their careers because they just don't show up on time, or because they have gotten a reputation for being a jerk. And look, that's not going to help. I mean, and again, you can cite some, some outlier that was able to make it work by also being late to everything, wearing the wrong clothes, cussing out the client, all of that kind of stuff. You can cite an outlier, but it seems to me that that's probably not going to work for you for a variety of reasons, so,
Yeah.
But hey, I could be wrong.
Hell no, you're not wrong. And just a final word on that. People who start things, you're talking about freelancing, so you're in that there's no intermediary between you and the client in this case. You're going out there and you're getting the money, or getting the contract and then maintaining it over time, building that reputation. So let's say that was like a company. One of the things that people who come into a company later don't understand is the simplicity of, now it's difficult to start a company and sustain all that kind of stuff, but it's not complicated is what I'm saying. Okay. It's not trying to predict the weather 10 years in the future. Okay. It's a series of simple things you just got to do consistently. It's more grind. And when I say grind, I'm not off some kind of weird space now. I'm talking about grinding with regards to the principles we just mentioned. Okay. But I'm talking about grinding with regards to delivering on time every time. And that's how you have this client. And the thing you have to watch out for is when you start bringing people in, things start to become, and this happens whether it be an empire you're building or just a simple company. Third generation down into the empire, Genghis Khan's grandchildren, or you're now hiring administrators. They tend to forget the importance of things like, being, doing things in this particular way at a very high level, constantly over delivering, right? And it tends to be the case that at that point, the company can actually sustain some, damage from under delivering, right? But this is why the company at that point is it's going to be peaking and then going down to the decline phase, right? The empire will be peaking too and going down to the decline phase. It's just, I'm not going to say, it tends to be inevitable. In other words, empirically, we look and we see that, the empires will rise and then they will fall. The companies will rise and then they will fall. And it's because of this, you start out with the barbarians who over deliver, are grinding, and they get the clients, they keep the clients and all that kind of stuff. Things start growing. You bring in the types of people that I call administrators, because they're just there to run the machinery that has already been created. And these administrators start looking at the fine print and saying, it's okay to go, it says 4 to 6 weeks here. Lawyers and all those types of people, right? The sales prevention team, as some of us call them, right? It's like their job is to stop things from happening. It's like that's what this is their job. Okay, lawyers out there is to stop things from happening. Okay, you have the barbarian type entrepreneur trying to do stuff, trying to sell stuff, trying to get things going. Is the client calls him at midnight, he picks up the phone, and then these other people are like, oh no, our business hours are from now to now. And no, we do not do this. We cannot answer the phone. All those other type of stuff. That is a sign of decline, right? Inevitably, you're gonna fall. Okay. Now, if you could say that the reason why it is that way, we observe this thing in history, is because you cannot have like a proliferation of you don't have like the barbarians are rare. Okay, that's really what I'm saying, right? And if you're gonna grow, you're gonna need to grow with regular people and administrators and lawyers and all that kind of crap. Because, by the way, after a particular phase, the barbarians are going to leave. They're going to go. It's going to start their own thing or whatever else, right? So it's a kind of a conundrum. I think we had this conversation in the previous conversation, right? About how do you keep the barbarian spirit? How do you keep the spirit of the founding fathers, if it's a nation, okay? How do you have this a flag to salute to and a set of principles that you put your hand on your chest and you say that you guys are grinding after Steve Jobs is dead, that kind of a thing? Because you're now at a decline. I at some point Apple will be no more, or to forge into something else. It finds a new trick, finds some other new barbarian type hill to go climb. But after saying all that, I'm going to reiterate that I think that the reason why we see this thing happening is because you cannot have just a billion Genghis Khans in the company, and perhaps and maybe because it perhaps doesn't even work. Maybe just a rule of nature that you can't you have to grow with the administrators and stuff like that. That the Genghis Khan types are not even into administering or lawyering or doing the types of things to keep the machinery going. Shout out to Jordan Peterson. He points out the whole on the personality scale end of things. He talks about the kind of entrepreneur creator type, and then the people who run things type, and you need both of them. Okay, hence you're going to have this dance. The creator is going to create something, and then the people are going to start running it, and the people who are running it tend to have a different mindset. They have the mindset of, it says 4 weeks. What do you mean he wants it in 2 days, right? I'm going on vacation and all that kind of crap. And hence the inevitable decline of the company. It could last another 20 years, okay, but it's really on its way down. And on its way down means deceleration, right? It doesn't mean you're actually on a decline. It just means you're not growing as fast as you were, and at some point you're going to reach a peak, and then you're going to start coming down. But anyways, Dr. Thunder, what you got for us on Thunder's thoughts?
Actually, this week I don't think I'm going to be doing a Thunder's thoughts, though. I likely will still be doing some sort of live stream, probably be some sort of impromptu live stream that day or that evening, or it could be a prime video. I've got some other stuff I need to get sorted. I've got a limited amount of time to find another vehicle. So I need to get hustle on that and a couple other things. But I have been doing these impromptu streams in the mornings, the Car Thunder videos, and I've got there's a long list of topics to cover because there is a bunch of crazy stuff going on. One of the things that we sort of were chuckling about before we started this live stream that I will be talking about is this sort of this new, it's like Get Your Booty to the Poll Part 2. This campaign by obviously Democrat supporting individuals, may not be an official campaign of the Democratic Party, but certainly Democrats are seen as the ones that would benefit from it. And just represents yet again a new low. Yet again a new low. Apparently, black men are so controlled by our lower extremities that the threat of eliminating access to any kind of friction, whatever your choice of friction is, supposedly is enough motivation to get us to get off of this. Black men are leaving the Democratic Party. Black men are going their own way. Black men are getting their passports, to get off of that and to, find ourselves back on the plantation, as it were. I don't know, man. It's just really dark. I just, you said something before the show started too about just this, every once in a while, one of these events happens that it just,
Yep.
This is definitely one of those events, and if they don't wake up to this, just disgusting strategy. I mean, this is how little they think of us. They think we are just animals. This is supposed to be convincing. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'll be looking forward to your treatment of it, and something I'm curious about is the outside certain circles. Let's say outside the Black manosphere, outside, or shall we even say outside the Black manosphere, and then let's say outside certain conservative circles, and on. Like, what are people's reactions to this, right? I want to see from let's say the actual target audience. Let's say you're Black, you are, a typical blue pill dude out there voting Democrat and doing whatever and all that kind of stuff. Like, what do you actually think about this? Would be an interesting thing to see, like how, because I don't know exactly whom would receive this well, The Get Your Booty to the Poll thing too was another one. I don't know who received that well exactly. Actually, the Get Your Booty to the Poll is very tame now, right? Compared to this. Because Get Your Booty to the Poll just seems like, which is kind of crazy how it's almost like how, it's not open to window exactly, but you get what I'm saying, right? Where now Get Your Booty to the Poll is normal. Because they just shifted this so far. Now you're like, whoa, what's next?
Yeah, this is ridiculous. No voting, no bucking.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. We will continue next week, but on Sunday, I think Dr. Thunder, you'll be able to do Case Closed on your channel, right?
Yeah, I think this Sunday is looking good. And
good.
Yeah, I am. There is a plethora of topics. There are so much stuff to discuss, and I thought that the show, though I could only participate for the first 30 minutes or so, that show this past Sunday was a really good show. It was a interesting sort of topic. This whole this sort of where does cultural appropriation end and cultural mixing begin? Just understanding what some of the historical context and with this particular what is it, brownie? What is it, the something brownie lips or something?
Yeah, something of that nature.
Something. Yeah, but I don't know, man. Lots of stuff to consider. But yeah, we'll have a spicy topic on Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it will be an all-star panel as usual, and looking very, very much looking forward to that. And then we'll be back here, Case Closed. I'm sorry, Getting Ish Done on Wednesday.
100%.
I will be bringing back my Conversations with Dr. Thunder series. It is, I've got a few things, irons in the fire, and a few other things that are distracting some of my energy. But I'd say within the next couple of weeks, I'll be getting that started.
Shout out to the Super Chatters again. Technological Chaos, Don McKee, always holding it down. Talking about number one gets him. He's not a good estimator of time, apparently. And Red Pill Finance. Shout out to everyone else in the chat. You know who you are, right? Princessa, Chuku Atonement, so on and so forth. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to end this one just like that without a, let me give you throw in some, let's go with this. Peace.